Hi, everybody. It's Kimberly. I'm an eternal life student, which simply means human. At the end of the day, that really is the only title that we need. I think people are like walking books. We each have our own stories to share, and by sharing together, we can grow stronger. Today, I have a guest who's going to share their story. His name is Daniel Ness, and he is a craftsman, an author, and he has something called Happiness Ridge, which I'll have him explain a little bit further. Hi, Daniel. How are you doing?
Hi, Kimberly. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Thank you so much for coming back. And I'm excited to get into the next chapter of your story. I don't know if it's the next chapter or a continuation, a little bit of both, right?
Yes. Well, it's like a Star Wars movie. It's set in next chapter.
True, you start from the end and then you go backwards, right? Just
Well,
don't start
that,
breathing like Darth Vader.
I, I think that's true of everybody, though. We
Yeah.
all have that story that you go out and you go backwards. And then you say, okay, I'm your father, rope.
You know what? It's true. You can't really know what's going on until it's happened, right?
Usually you're so in, what do they say? You can't see the forest for the trees. You're in the thick of
Yes.
it. You don't have time to think outside. I mean, literally outside the
Mhm.
box, right? You're in
Yeah,
the
no,
box,
it's
right? And
true.
it's
Very
not a
true.
not a case of being mentally trapped in the box. You're just in this box,
You're just sitting in
and
it.
you're busy being in the box, right?
Yes,
You're so busy in the box that you can't get out of the box to see what you're doing in the box.
very true. So what we were talking about previously was about how you were overcoming ignorance, right?
Yes.
And for those who didn't see the first podcast, do you want to kind of give a quick little description of what that means?
Um, at 35 years old, I read a book by Professor Deborah Tannen called That's Not What I Meant.
Hmm.
And that book, which I told you about how great her stuff is, but forgot to mention
Yes,
the book last time. That's Not
yes.
What I Meant is the name of the book. And it talks about the frames. And what I meant is my frame. It's
Hmm.
and what you hear is your frame. And
Yes,
so what you hear may not be what I meant. Right?
yes.
And that's what I found out at 35 is nobody else knew what I meant.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, and after realizing that every single person in your life you hurt and it's your fault and you did it out of ignorance.
Right.
And so that to this day is still one of the most painful moments of my life, just that realization. And I think that's part of the reason people don't do self-help
Mm.
stuff is because you got to get on the surgical table of life and cut into yourself.
Yes.
And that's not a pleasant thing to do. And
No.
so I'd rather sit in this comfort than get out of it. And that wasn't my case. I didn't want to sit in the comfort. Right?
Yeah.
And I got out of it. And so I had spent the previous, what, since 23 years old. I was
Hmm.
in the Marine Corps, and that's when I really started doing what they call self-help books in the library section at a
Yes.
bookstore. It's a self-help section, but
Hmm.
um, I guess that's an accurate. You got people that tell you, "Hey, this is what I did. Go do it yourself." Right. So it is,
Right.
and like I was saying before, it took a lot of that for me to
Yeah.
click, for it to all that stuff to click. And Deborah Tannen's book put together so many pieces, and it explained things in my past I didn't understand. And,
Hmm.
and so I was able to, at that moment, I knew that I didn't know.
Right.
And once you know that you don't know, ignorance is not knowing, right?
Hmm.
It's stupid, it's ignorant.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
be stupid too, but they
That's a
don't
whole
have to be
different
together.
category.
It's just, um, you don't know. And I didn't know anything. And that's what
Right.
that overcoming ignorance was, is I didn't know anything. I didn't have any parental guidance. I didn't have any of those things that normal people have. And
Hmm.
so um, when I, at 35, after at least a decade of trying, I mean, I started from nothing. So a decade's
Yeah.
not really that long. um, a decade of trying, that I've realized, hey, wait a minute, there's even more to this that I didn't know.
Hmm.
Right?
Yes.
It's like
Yeah.
when you're going along on raw talent, right, and ambition and those things, and you can kind of, I don't know, I don't want it to sound like it sounds, but force your way through stuff, right?
Hmm.
You 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 you.
You just
It's
kind
like,
of get by, right?
well, it's like software program.
Right.
There's a lot of software programs that I can use really well to do what I do with them.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
use them really well for what they do with them. And there are a lot of things that are a lot more efficient than what I do, but
Right.
make it happen.
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's true. And I think one of the other things too is seeing that you may have thought you knew, right? Then you you finally you're like, okay, now I know. And then you find out again, nope, I really still don't know. Right?
Well, you nailed it. That
Yeah.
is that is the pain point, because
Yes.
what you have to do, that knife cutting into you, is everything that I believed and what I was acting upon was based on a lie.
Yeah.
And to accept that is
Hmm.
really hard to do. You got to go, oh, wait a minute. And that's without going back and, like I did, going back and looking at all the relationships I hurt. It's
Right.
just how I lived, who I talked to, what I talked to, the things that, and all of a sudden now it's like, oh, we were talking about, it is what it is, right? When you
Hmm.
discover what it is and it isn't what you thought it was.
Yeah.
Some people, unfortunately, continue in their disbelief. Even
Yes.
though they know, they find a reason not to believe.
It's
And so
easier, right?
it is because it, when you're a life learner, a
Hmm.
big part of life lessons are come with a little bit of pain. Some
Yes.
of them, a lot of bit of pain.
Oh, yes.
And those ones that you can almost tie the amount of pain to the importance of the event.
Hmm.
It's
True.
like you go, okay, and then in your life you go back when you have a chance to get outside of the box, right,
Yeah.
and you're looking in the box, you can go, that's what
Mm.
did this particular thing to me,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And
Self-realization, or you identify the different pieces of yourself, right? Same idea.
yeah, an awareness. We're
Yes, that's a
talking
good
about
word.
how, um, if you have a name, if
Hmm.
something has a name, then you can learn about it.
Yeah.
And so many things in my life, and I know a lot of other people's lives, they're aware of,
Hmm.
in a kind of ephemeral sort of way, but
Hmm.
it's not tangible,
Yes.
and so I don't know where I was going with that, but what was
No,
I saying?
then no, it's true. Like you said, like there's an awareness, but basically you haven't really, what do you want to grabbed onto it, right? And dealt with it.
The difference between being awake and being
Yes.
alert,
True. Very
right?
true. Yeah.
Okay, so
And
that happened
and
in
then
'97.
yes. So in 1997, you had a lot of different things going on. And with that too, I think you also started your journey to continue to learn, right? From that point. Uh, you
Well,
started to find,
I've never stopped learning. The I'm able to focus my learning on particular things at a time,
mm-hmm,
and what also have the other significant event that happened in my life in 97 was my dad sent me a book from somewhere in an Indonesia region,
Okay.
and they had different copyright laws there. And
Okay.
so he was able to take this book and have it printed. He had it
Hmm.
printed and bound, and he sent me a copy of it. And it was Love Life for Every Married Couple by Ed Wheat.
Okay.
What did I do? It's right here. This book.
Okay. And what did you learn from it?
I learned what love was.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, before that, I mean, I'll tell you how I got here in a little bit, but
Okay.
before that, I had not experienced love and I didn't see it.
Hmm.
So I didn't know what love looked like,
That
right?
happens to a lot of people.
It does,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and that's really wrong.
Yeah.
Um, so Ed Wheat's book, he says, hey, there's five words we use for love, and they
Hmm.
refer to different types of personalities and different types of behaviors. And then he
Okay.
goes on to explain those five words and how these people behave exhibiting that particular behavior. And um, I did, I was literally trying to learn how to do love. How do I love somebody? I'm trying to
Yes.
make this marriage work. How do I love somebody? And my
Hmm.
dad gives me this book that changed my life so
Ah.
much because before then, I did not know what love was. I didn't know. And so all of a sudden I learned, and I'm going, okay, uh, I'm going to turn this into something I can use.
Let's
Right.
see.
So I got copious notes in the book.
Hmm.
I took all of these notes and I put them in a piece of paper, and then I kind of played with it and digested it and turned it in and out. And I wanted to make it so that I could, because it's a principle in a lot of the self help stuff is to stick on the mirror your goal,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
And so I wanted something that I could stick on the mirror, a one
Okay.
pager that listed these things I should be doing.
Hmm.
And at, at first, they were affirmations. So there
Okay.
was like more than 44, and there will probably be more than 44 when I'm done, but they were affirmations. I will do blah, blah, blah. I am blah, blah,
Okay.
blah. Right?
Okay.
And I knew what those were. And so I was able to shrink them down,
Hmm.
condense them into fewer words. The idea was to be as pithy as possible. And
Yes.
so it gets the point across, but it really doesn't convey the entire message.
Hmm.
Right. So the 44 rules is this is the entire message. Love is really simple. It's an act, it's a choice. Here are the things that you can choose to do. Right.
Hmm.
There are 44 of them, and I put them on a list so I could stick it on the wall. And it's been on my wall for a decade. It's been on
Oh,
my
wow.
wall since 1997, frankly. And as soon as I moved in here, stuck it on a kitchen cabinet, and I heard a year and a half later, my wife says, "Don't take it down because I read it too."
Ah, that's lovely.
It's not a to-do list; it's more of a
Right.
how am I doing list,
Oh, I
right?
like that. I
Right?
like that.
Because love is it's like you said, all in.
Yes.
You're
You
all
give
in,
it. Yes.
and so all of the rules apply. We don't do them all right, and we don't do some of them at all, but they all apply. And so,
Yes.
if you to truly love your mate, you are doing all 44 rules. You're
Wow.
doing them, right?
Hmm.
You're both doing them, and I'm telling you, there is a lot of goodness happening when both people in a marriage are doing the 44 rules. It's
Ah.
we have love notes everywhere.
That's the way life should be,
It is,
right?
and I mean, it's like one of the 44 rules is always stay touching.
Yeah.
Touch is really really important, and so there's if I'm within arm's reach of my wife, I touch her. So if I'm walking
Good.
by, I'll brush her back as I'm walking by, right?
Yes.
And when both people are doing that, or
Yeah.
encouraging words, or those things that you do that are loving,
Hmm.
when both sides are reading from the same play sheet, it's a
Yes.
really fantastic thing. And that's what prompted me to share them, because I didn't know. You
Hmm.
already know I like to share what I find out, because I
Yes.
started with nothing. I started at blank. And
Hmm.
so I'll go back to them.
Yes.
I was born in 1961 in Nampa, Idaho. My parents were students there.
Hmm.
Um, they married 6 weeks after I was born. We moved to Seattle, and I lived in Seattle for 5 years.
Hmm.
That was really my first experience at being left alone. So we moved when I was 5. So sometime before that, before the age of
Right.
5, we lived on the corner of an intersection of one of the streets is a major road in Seattle.
Mm.
Twice. One
Oh
time
no.
I walked across the street down the strip malls along the road. And then when I got down to where the strip mall stopped, I walked back across the street to a gas station and said, I don't know where I'm at.
Right. Oh.
And so they called, and then he came and got me. And then another time they couldn't find me, is because I
Ah.
got the back seat of the car and went to
Mm.
the back of the car. So I was absent enough to be lost.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that was my first real experience, um, being the way it was. And then
Yes.
after that, it was at the end of that my parents divorced. And so
Oh.
we moved to Edmonds. I never saw my dad again until I think I got married when I was 31.
Wow.
So, um, so we're lost my third.
That's okay.
Where was I?
You were talking about
No, so
how
we moved to Edmonds, right?
yes.
I'm 5 years old. That's
Yep.
when they split, right? So
Yes.
all I have is my mom, who is now, I think, knowing my own history and the history of the illness, I think she was probably bipolar too.
Mm.
So, not good with money. I think she
Right.
was different bipolar than I was, but
Okay.
bipolar still. Um, um, and my dad kind of told me, I gave her money all these years. How come you didn't have any? Kind of.
Yeah.
So, um, we we I'm 5 when we're there. Uh, we're trying to make things meet. I get into
Oh no.
talking about making bad decisions, right? And owning up.
Yes.
I mean, literally no parental supervision the majority of the day.
Yeah.
School and at night.
Hmm.
And so, um, I'm a natural leader. So I created a gang,
Oh no.
and we busted into this dude's house who thought it was vacant, but he was on vacation.
Oh no.
And the cops came, and I just stood there and with my arm up against the wall, waiting for him. Because like I said,
Yeah.
if you do it, you know, pay the
Yep.
price. And
Yeah.
I just recently wondered if that played a role in us moving.
Okay.
Yeah, because somebody had to pay for that. We didn't have a lot
Of
of money,
course.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yes,
then
sure.
we moved to Darrington. I was in Edmonds from 67 to 72.
Okay.
And then we moved to Darrington, which is a logging town, literally 1,000
Hmm.
people in a bowl of mountains.
Mm.
Gorgeous. You step out your
Yeah.
back door and the mountains are right there. It's just beautiful. But
Yeah.
it was, well, at the time, it was populated probably 60 to 70% of the people were from Western North Carolina.
Okay.
So to me, they were hicks
Uh,
and they were mean.
oh.
I come to learn just last year to
Hmm.
understand that they were collectively defending themselves from the virus
Ah.
because those
Okay.
communities are really, really tight and they take care of each other and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And I said it then, and I'll say it till I die. If you ain't from there, you'll
You don't
never
know.
be from there.
Yeah.
And so I was not from there, and it was really a very difficult time in my life. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, what kept me, I believe, going was I had a one-way conversation with God every day, all the way because
Hmm.
I lived 2 blocks from school. It was a small town.
Okay.
2 blocks from school, so I'm walking to school. I'm walking back. One day, one of the goons in the school, um, the hardware store where my mom worked was between the two. It was a block from.
Oh. Okay.
So I'm coming back, and the entire block, he's pounding on my shoulder because he wants me to
Uh,
respond.
of
And
course.
I've learned you
Don't.
don't
Yeah.
respond, right? And so
He
by the
just kept
time
going.
I'm just not only am I a mess, but I'm just bawling and everything. Not in front of him, but in front of
Right.
my
I
son,
don't know.
you know. And so it was a
Hard time.
very very hard time for me. Formative years too. I mean, you're talking. I
Yeah.
was uh, 10 to 15.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Those are
Yeah,
really
that's the
important years.
very, the beginning stages of you uh growing up.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that was another case where we were kind of left alone.
Mhm.
And luckily for me, I love the outdoors. So, I mean, I'd go hiking up into a mountain or something. And there's a nice little mountain or gold mountain overlooked the valley that the town was in. And you could
Mhm.
climb up a little ways up and sit on this big old rock and just look at the airport and the
Mhm.
town and coming in. I've
Ah,
been one way in that's paved, and it was I had good and I
yeah.
had horrible,
Yeah. So
but
you learn from both, right?
you do. And it is what it is. You
Yes.
know, it is for that phrase for me. I mean, I've used it a lot since, but I guess it really started then
Mm,
because I knew what I was facing. I knew they didn't
okay.
love me, and
Right.
I refused to go along. They had hazing back then.
Oh, yeah.
I refused to participate. I said, I
Hmm.
wouldn't do it to anybody else, and you're not going to do it to me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, that went over really well.
I'm sure.
But I mean, that's where I first heard about Napoleon Hill. I
Mm,
was 11 years old. We were in Darrington, and my mom's she's at an Amway meeting. A friend of hers is
right.
an Amway distributor, and she comes in and starts talking about Napoleon Hill and these success principles,
Right.
and I'm like, there's more than this. There's, right? And so I read
Right.
the book. I've read the book multiple times. I have probably all of his books
Mm,
in original sources if I can get them. Like the new Think and Grow Rich isn't as good as the original Think and Grow Rich.
right. Right. Yeah.
But that caused me to have this, okay, it is what it is, but it doesn't have to be what it
Mm,
is all the time.
true.
And as I got older and got more independent, I had just an outstanding shop teacher who got me a job at this wood. This they made oak bathroom fixtures like sinks,
Okay.
and mirrors, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got me a job at this place, and it was 60 miles away one way.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
15,
Yeah, I was gonna say, how'd you get there?
so I'm driving every day,
Hmm.
120 miles back and forth. I've been driving long distance since. I don't have any problem driving long distance.
Right.
I've only been caught by the cops a couple times, but I'm a safe driver.
Well,
And
that's
so
important.
uh, I, I have to tell people when I'm driving, I have two rules as a passenger. The first rule
Okay.
is don't kill me. The second rule is stay in your lane.
Yes.
That's it,
Very
right?
good
So,
rules.
um, I may be faster than everybody else, but it's faster in a way that's safer. If you're driving side by side by somebody, that's not safe.
Mm, no.
Right? There's a reason why you have passing lanes of traffic flow.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and I've only been busted a few times.
See, so there you go. You got a good track record.
So my sister graduated from high school in Darrington in 76.
Okay.
It was wonderful because it was the anniversary.
Mm,
And so their gowns were red,
right.
white, and blue. They
Oh,
looked like
wow.
clowns.
You had fun with that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, she had fun with it, because it was, you can't do anything about it.
No?
But after she graduated, uh, my mom remarried,
Okay.
and so we moved to Mount Vernon.
Okay.
My brother was a freshman. I was a
Okay.
junior. So there's two. Well, no, he was a sophomore. There's 15 months between us.
Okay.
He had enough. I think he's got some dyslexia and some
Mm,
other issues too. And
so he was done with it.
he had enough, and he quit and
Yeah.
left. Never came back. And I didn't. I had
Mm-hmm.
some I had some cool teachers. I had an English teacher that taught the mystery and the macabre. So
Oh,
we read Frankenstein, Dracula,
nice.
oh, all these. Her husband was my shop teacher, and we had a carpentry class. So I spent my junior and senior years in a carpentry class in school,
Hmm.
building houses. Um,
Nice.
so I had all this stuff going on. I I I graduated in '79.
Hmm.
I graduated with honors and a blank diploma.
A blank diploma. What?
I had chords and everything. Um, the de- the deal was is that my carpentry class was a zero absence class, and my
Ah,
senior year, I met a girl,
well, that could do it. Yep.
and I missed several classes. So
No.
when graduation came around, I had 48 hours to this class. So I spent every day after graduation, all day long in the shop, trying to
Uh,
get my diploma.
right. You see, you did have a certain kind of love,
Yeah.
just different.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
It's nature.
I still didn't know. I
Hmm.
mean, I was going off of just raw, right?
Yeah.
I could do stuff. God gave me ability to do stuff, and I'm pretty smart. And so I can
Yeah.
figure things out and kind of make my way along. And that's what I was
Hmm.
doing. I was just kind of making my way along.
Yeah.
And um, in Mount Vernon is when it, because that whole time, no parenting. mean, mom
Right.
would think they're off trying to work or
Right. Everybody's busy
work
doing
at the
something.
bowling alley. That was cool. I got to know
Yeah.
how the bowling alley works. That was a lot of fun. It's also why I don't like chocolate shakes.
Huh.
They had a restaurant in the bowling alley,
Uh-huh.
and one time we were in there, and I ordered a chocolate shake, and they put like 3 times the amount of chocolate in the shake.
Oh,
Ruined it.
yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I got through, graduated, went to the local college,
Okay.
community college. Um, Back then, the town was only 1,000 or 10,000 people. It was a pretty small town,
Mhm.
and the college was pretty small too. And so, but it was local, and I could make money for tuition amazingly by
Mhm.
being the by running the radio station. So I
Okay.
could earn a check running the radio
Right.
station. So I earned enough to be able to go to school.
See? That's
And,
great.
I was sitting here going, I don't business, a
Mhm.
business. I wanted to get in some sort of business, and I'm studying that stuff, but I'm doing the radio and this other stuff, and I'm going. I don't really know what I want to do when I
Right.
grow up.
You just
I mean,
started. Yeah.
I don't, and I'm still ignorant as a stump, right? So
Right.
I took um, I took a class to become a baseball umpire,
Okay.
right? I aced the test, the class, but I never become
Mhm.
an umpire because I was afraid I couldn't. I
Ah,
didn't know I could. Because I
right.
was young. I didn't know I could
Mhm.
be a young umpire, right?
Right.
And that's a story of my life for a lot of places. Is just I didn't know,
You didn't
and
know.
that crushing insecurity and
Mhm.
isolation and all that stuff. You're not going to learn easy.
No, not at all. Yeah.
So
And
uh, where was I?
and you didn't know about being the empire.
Yeah. Oh, so I'm running the.
Saying how you had started working at a radio. Was that the first time you started working in radio?
No, when we moved to Mount Vernon from Darrington, I had my junior and senior years,
Hmm.
and Mount Vernon was. I put it this way: I went from a town of 1,000 to a high school of 1,100.
Okay. Yeah. Big difference, right?
Huge difference.
Yes.
But when you have 1,100 uh, kids in a pretty affluent part of the world because of very, very rich farmlands,
Mm-hmm.
very rich. Most of the world's tulips and daffodils are grown there,
Oh, really? Wow.
more than Dutch.
Hmm.
Yeah, so there's a lot of kind of old money there.
Okay.
Back then, and so they had a radio program, and I got into it my junior year. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
my senior year, I was a teacher's aide.
Okay.
I was talking about missing 48 hours of carpentry class.
Yes.
Third period was radio. So I went into the booth we built and slept under the counter in third period to catch up.
Oh no. The things we do, right?
The things we do. But it was fun. It actually allowed me to explore creatively, and I've never really thought of it being creative because it's tweaking somebody else's stuff. But
Right.
um, our we actually had a radio program there for an hour a week on the local radio station.
Okay.
So um, banners. It was at the time of Saturday Night Fever, right? So it was Thursday Night
Oh,
Fever,
okay.
stuff like that, and I got to do things like that, and that was a lot of fun. Um, and it turns out I talked about not really getting to know my dad till I was 35.
Mm-hmm.
His sister, my aunt,
Right.
I don't know her very well either. I wish I did,
Oh,
but she's radio,
oh,
right?
really?
Oh yeah. Some time ago, she was in Inc. magazine on the cover as radio's most influential woman.
Wow, that's great. So it
Yeah,
runs in the family, right?
I say it does. I say it does.
Yes, it
But
does.
my senior year in high school,
Hmm.
she's working at KGR, which is a local AM rock station, right?
Okay.
And Kiss is coming in for an interview.
Ah, nice.
So me and my buddy get to go down to the radio station and watch him do this interview, right? And
Wow.
they come in through the back door and they're not
Oh,
wearing makeup. This is
oh,
back when.
wow. So you really got to see them,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. The only guy who wasn't there was Ace Frehley,
Uh-huh.
but Gene Simmons was there. I mean, all
Very
and
cool.
so we're sitting here. There's the booth,
Okay.
glass walls, a producer's booth,
Hmm.
right, and then the hallway into the place.
Okay.
So we're in the producer's booth in these chairs, and
Okay.
all the women in the radio station are behind. Okay?
Lined up, right?
Well, my aunt worked in the sales department at the time, right? She
Okay.
wasn't in management; she was working sales. Well,
Hmm.
not running the joint, and
Right.
so there was a lot of women who work in radio and sales. A lot of them,
Okay.
and so the radio station had a lot of female employees, and so they came up to watch too. You know, Gene
Of
Simmons,
course.
right? And some guy calls in. I This is the gospel truth.
Oh, no.
Some guy calls in and asks a question about Gene Simmons's tongue.
Of course. That's always a question.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, back then, this is 78. Um, and so he sticks that sucker out, and I kid you not, all the women behind me moaned. I've never laughed so hard in my life.
You'll always remember that, won't you?
Yeah, that's one of those things you just don't forget.
You won't forget
Oh, it
it.
was
Yeah.
so funny. But so well, that's how I got into doing radio in college. I
Okay.
had been doing it for 2 years already. I had experience. Um, uh, I actually had a job when I got out of high school. I got a job at a radio station in the
Okay.
adjoining town 20 miles away.
Hmm.
They played uh, old music. I mean, at the
Yeah.
time, I mean, Sinatra, you know,
Okay.
so like even when I was young, it was old music.
Keep six.
And it was all pre-recorded,
Okay.
right? So all I did was make sure the
Just
tapes
press
were
through.
running, but I got to do, and it's where I got the bug. I got to do live news,
Hmm.
read the racing reports, and if you don't read the racing reports, hell will be paid. I'm telling you, because them old people in Anacortes, they
They
want to
want
know.
their
Yeah,
information.
and
Yeah.
they could care less about anything else. They just
Tell
want.
them.
I mean, and I've had the boss chew my ass out a couple times for just missing one, you know.
Mm, yeah.
But it's where I got where I started interviewing people was in
Okay.
doing the news, right? So I actually got to do news. I didn't just read it. I actually got to do news, and it was
Okay.
fun. I got to do that for a little while, and then I went from that on to radio in college. Where
Hmm.
so I was able. That's how I was able to run the radio station, and it was at the time a really uh, small program. They had a 10
Okay.
watt. They had a 10-watt transmitter,
Okay.
which barely covered campus. Right. I mean, it's a small school all around.
Small, yeah.
The studio was in.
A little
Imagine,
closet.
well, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Imagine because so you got a square room that's a studio. It's got lights because they didn't at the time, but they could do TV.
Right.
And so cut off a corner of that. And in that corner
Was a chair.
Yeah, close enough. In the corner, you cut off both of those corners. One is an office, the other is the booth. So you're
Okay.
literally standing with the door at your back and the mic in front of you.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so, yeah, it was really, it was quite the experience. But I
Wow.
mean, we talked about this before and how that at the time there was funding cuts, and
Mm,
it was a state
it is.
school, right? And so the state say, "Hey, man, sorry,"
Gotta.
and the college said, "Sorry." You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because
Yeah.
it was a club running the radio station. It wasn't a class. There was a class, but it
Yeah.
wasn't a official school thing. And so we had a choice: let the station die, or
Right.
uh, pay for it.
Mm.
And so that's where I got into public speaking about radio. I'm passionate about the subject.
Wow.
I've been speaking about the importance and the value of college and non-commercial radio since 1979.
That's amazing. So,
Because
you
really,
see?
radio is a medium you can listen to while doing something else.
True.
You can't do that with TV or internet or anything else. Your radio, you can listen while you're doing something else. And in college stations, the beauty of a college station is the number one thing that drives the DJ is the love of the music.
Oh
Like
yeah,
they're
definitely.
there
All
for the
different
music.
types,
They
styles.
are
Yes.
terrible disc jockeys.
Oh yeah.
Most of them, right? Because they don't know, they haven't tried any. They're just cutting their teeth, right?
Yep.
But they love the music, right? And
Yeah.
so you got people that love the music that are learning the craft,
Yeah.
in something that's I mean, so valuable because of your ability to influence while people are doing other things.
True. Yeah, no, true. So, I mean, there's a lot of skill that's needed. But sometimes you don't even know, again, back to the you don't know what you don't know, right?
No, I just thought of a quick thing when I was working at KAGT,
Okay.
or as I later joked around, K Aged Rigor Mortis or Anacortes.
Nice.
But I'm working tapes, right? It's
Hmm.
an automated system.
Hmm.
My aunt became the most influential woman in radio, running a country that creates automated systems in, and
See?
their content.
See? And
So
how does this all connect, right? Yeah.
it's weird.
That's amazing.
And there's no connection really. I
It
mean,
just kind of happened.
that was a side of my family that I knew existed, but I didn't
Mhm.
really.
Not why you
Edie,
went there, right?
no, I mean, and she's always been all of my uh, relatives on that side, except for my sister who's working on it. Um, are they're cool.
Hmm.
They've been nice to me. And so even though I wasn't there
Hmm.
the years before, when I did show up as an adult, they were cool and they were like, "Hey, yeah, family," and
Aw.
and that stuff. So um, yeah, it was it was different. But she
Yes.
was one of those ones that I had the occasional opportunity to meet with. Uh,
Right.
uh,
Learn some of
don't
the skill.
well, no, not so
No,
much.
just
No, it was. I mean, my interest in what she did was sincere. I don't
mhm.
know that she saw it that way,
Okay.
and so um, we differ on a lot on a lot of things, right?
Hmm.
And um, so
That's okay. You
yeah,
don't
it is what
you
it
don't
is.
have to be the
I'm
same.
not going to tell you
People
should be a certain way, and I don't want you to tell me how I should be, right? But
exactly.
that doesn't change the fact that here's an accomplished woman
Yes.
in a field I have an extreme interest in,
Hmm.
And so um, reaching out to her to find that information, and but there's the other part of her is going, there's this ulterior motive because I'm one
Ah,
of the
yes.
I'm one of the
Some
bad
people,
guys.
yeah.
Yeah,
It starts to they get a little whisper behind
yeah,
the
yeah.
ear. They're
So,
like,
but
well,
I mean,
maybe, what if, you know,
uh,
it's a
um,
rarity though. That's why so many people want something.
well,
True.
yeah,
So many
and
that
it's actually it's helped me,
yeah,
because I was ignorant in everything.
right.
Right. And one thing that my sister said to me when I was maybe 17, 16,
Hmm.
she said, you never say thank you.
Ah, okay.
And I have thought of that every moment since.
Yes.
You talk about those key moments in your life that are really simple. That was one of them. Somebody told me, I mean, and I was completely unaware,
Hmm.
ignorant as you could be,
Right.
not self-aware at all, and I have
Hmm.
somebody who I care about at the time telling me, "Hey,
You should
uh,
say
I don't think she said it in a mean way. It's like
just an observing way.
you never say thank you," and
Hmm.
it really struck me, and so I'm all about thanks today,
Yeah.
and how I will spread blame as wide as I can get it, or not
Yeah.
blame, fame and fortune, and because every we're all different, but in our differences we can excel, and
Definitely.
many people excel in their differences.
Yes.
You can go along with it and say, "Hey, man, these this guy knows what he's doing." And it's one of the things I really enjoy doing. And when I actually tell people this too, and I don't know how many of them take me seriously, but I love watching people that are really good at what they do.
Oh yeah. It's
I'm
like
a
art,
yeah, well,
right?
yeah. So I'm a process guy. I'm
Hmm.
looking at it from how do we make this better, and knowing that that guy knows the best way,
Hmm.
right? Is he been empowered to make it better, or is something in his way? A good manager gives him the power or gets things out of the way. So I'm looking at it process wise from how I don't know where I was, but how what were we talking about?
You were talking about watching someone who does something really good.
Oh yeah, right. So you got talent, and
Hmm.
that talent can be art.
Yes.
I've been looking at some posts by Jeffrey O'Connell. I'm not sure if I got that right, but he's
Okay.
a former Navy EOD, and he does woodworking. And
Oh,
he's
nice.
making this chair that's just got these really awesome curves and suppleness to it, and you
Hmm.
know, so you here's a guy. It's a technical skill. He's making a
Hmm.
chair,
Right.
but it is freaking art.
Yes.
The way the pieces are all flowing together and things like that. So watching somebody that's really good at what they do is watching art. It's watching
Yeah.
somebody that knows they
I
they're
know
good at
it.
what they do because they know what they're doing. I mean, and they
Exactly.
know, not
Yeah.
I think I know, but I know. And
Yeah.
those are the guys that can explain something to you in 5 words.
Yes, definitely.
Because
They say something like that, right? They
yeah,
say if you really know it, then you can explain it to a 3-year-old or something like that, or in five
yeah,
words,
yeah,
right?
exactly. I've seen this meme a few times lately where in school I need a 5 page, minimum, 15,000 words, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And in real life, it says you got 5 seconds.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
true. Yeah, they're like, just tell me or get out, right?
yeah,
I don't have time for this. Tell me, let's go. Right? It's
yeah.
true. Yeah. Oh my goodness. No, but like you said, when you see someone who really they embody something, like that it's part of who they are, it's natural. They learn it's not even it's almost like instinctual, right?
Well,
It's amazing to see.
the thought I just had when you said that was um, self awareness, right?
Yep.
You, for the longest, I mean, I've always appreciated good work. It's
Hmm.
just in my wiring to be that. I'm CDO, remember? It's
Right.
like an OCD, but in alphabetical order, like it should be. So I just lost my thought. Shame on me.
You're cracking yourself up right now.
Well, I mean, it was like perfect example of going off on this bunny trail.
Yeah.
And where was I?
You were talking about a perfect example of something because I lost you there.
Where was right before that?
We were talking about instinctual, how some things, the art of some people are is like
Oh,
instincts.
yeah. So that self awareness we've been talking about, how uh, you become comfortable in your own skin,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's until you get to that point that you can have that kind of a relationship
Mm, yeah.
because you are unencumbered by all this other mental BS.
True.
And then all of a sudden, now it's like, oh, I get it. It makes sense.
Yeah. Right. The picture becomes clear, right? You're out of the box. It's clear,
Here.
you understand, right? And
Yep.
now it doesn't matter what anybody says because you're comfortable with who you are because you know whatever that thing is that you're learning.
Well, and from that comfort, you can
Hmm.
see, we'll call it discomfort.
Hmm.
Like we are talking about, if abuse is all you know,
Yep.
normal is abuse,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
To somebody else, it's abuse, man. That ain't right. But
Right.
to the
Right.
person who only knows that, that's normal. And whatever you have is abnormal.
Exactly. It's
You,
true.
I'm thinking that um, when you get to that point to where you're comfortable in your own skin and you're self-aware and you're able, because from that point you're able to reflect on the others. Yeah, we're
Yes.
talking about how you can't give what you don't have. That
Hmm.
self-awareness also allows you to be other aware, and that's where
Yes.
empathy comes in, sympathy,
Hmm.
all those things come into play,
Yeah.
because you're now,
You finally get it.
you're safe enough, or you
Yes.
feel like you're in a safe enough place to go out to someplace where you know
You know
now.
what you're looking for now,
You know
right?
now, you know what somebody else is going through, you
Yes.
know what they're struggling with.
Yes.
You're able to uh, help,
Identify.
well, identify, but also help without getting engaged, if that
Yes.
makes sense, without
Yes.
making it your problem,
Boundaries. It's
right?
learning boundaries,
Because exactly,
right?
exactly, it's, you're able to help somebody else through their struggle by
Hmm.
your experience, and
Yep.
still, like you said, keep that boundary. You know,
Yep.
you're helping.
You're
you're
helping.
you're
You're
not
not
walking side
inflicting
by
on
side.
yourself.
You're
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 helping to
helping.
guide.
I'm giving you the path, or I'm giving you the
Yep.
tools, or whatever. But it's still, my favorite. One of my, you're walking, right. It's
Yep.
still yours. And one of my
Yes.
favorite. I think I told you this before about the monkey on your back,
Mm.
where you go into your manager's office and say, "Man, I got this freaking monkey on my back," and a good manager says, "Wow, what are you gonna do about it?" Right? They
Exactly.
want to pass the monkey off, right?
Hmm.
No, no.
You got to figure it out.
You figure it out, exactly.
Yep. Very true. So I mean, this is part of the journey you've been working on, right?
Yeah.
When you really start reviewing a lot of the different things, you had to find out, how to get out of the box, how to identify, and then once you did, how to build that boundary, right? And actually
Well,
learn that you're
it,
okay.
first you got to learn that you're in a box,
Yes.
right? That's what those early years for me was, learning that I'm in a box. There is a reality around me. I don't understand it, most of it,
Yep.
but I'm in this box, right? And I'm trying to figure out reality, and the that continual life learner thing is, you
Mm-hmm.
are always, you're looking you're looking for the
Yep.
next thing, you're looking for the next thing, and that's what I was always looking for the next thing. Luckily I got that prompt when I was 11,
Mm-hmm.
with the Napoleon Hill. Yeah, because it's 14 rules. It's like the 44 rules. There are
Yep.
14 principles of success. It's as
Mm-hmm.
simple as that. And you do you do the 44 rules, you are doing love. You do the
Yeah.
14 principles, you are doing success.
Yes.
It's kind
See,
of
so
fun.
you actually kind of lucked out with all these rules you were given when you had none, right? If you think about it, you had to take care of yourself for most of it.
Yeah.
And as you did that, you still got rules given to you in a different way, which you were able to learn and teach yourself from.
Uh, I don't know that I would call them rules.
Nah?
No,
Guidelines?
no. I mean, because rules are things you learn to do, right? Those
Okay.
rules are bound. If you want, a boundary is a rule,
Okay.
right?
True, true.
And so this is more about, um,
Guidance.
yeah,
Okay.
that's, that's, yeah.
Well,
And
you said a lot of times that you were home taking care of yourself, right? In the
well,
beginning.
you have to be. I mean,
Right.
and I didn't know I was in the box. I found out at 11 that there was an outside of this box. I didn't know
Yep.
what it was, but I knew
Hmm.
there was now a box. And so I
Right.
spent those years from 11 piecing together. Orson Swett Martin predates Hill by 20 years, and he's doing the
Hmm.
same. It's the principles are universal, right?
Right.
And so we're talking about having to hear it 3, 4, 6, 7 times before it clicks. All
Right.
of the self-help authors since have
Yeah.
based their work off of Napoleon Hill or
Well, truth is
Orson
truth,
Scott
if you
Martin.
think about
Or,
it, right?
exactly, right. So what you have is the same truth,
Hmm.
right? Told in a different story, or told in a different
Yes.
way, or put a different highlight on it. And it was that accumulation of, okay, now I
Uh,
get it, right?
yep.
On a lot of levels. And that's when I had enough of that, that's when I was able to get out of the box. And that was at
Yes.
35. When I knew I didn't know, I I
You
knew.
knew.
Well, so
You knew you didn't know you knew that you didn't
when
know.
you don't know that you don't know, you're in the box,
Yes.
right? When you
Correct.
know you don't
That there's a,
know, you know the box is there.
and then it's how do you get out of the box?
And then how do you get out of the box? And once you're out of the box, once you're out of the box, you know you don't know, but you know that you're gonna know. Right. And so
Exactly.
you can
Then your
focus.
journey begins to know, right? Figure it
Exactly.
out.
Exactly. And
Yep.
I think what holds a lot of people back is the inability to let go of the past.
Yeah.
Either for, I mean, and forgiving yourself is one that's really common not to be done. People don't forgive themselves. They don't
No.
realize you can't give what you don't have,
True.
right? And you have,
Right?
all of us have screwed up some way, how or another. It's part of being
Right.
human, right? And
Yeah.
if you can't forgive yourself, and sometimes, I mean, like I said, when I found out that everybody before in my life I hurt,
Yep.
I had to forgive myself for doing that. That's
Yes.
part of the pain of first I did it and now I gotta go. And how
Yeah.
can you make up for it, right? And so
Correct.
you forgiving yourself is just the first piece. And then, so you get in there, and now once you got this forgiveness built in you, and you're
Mm-hmm.
able to see the truth of this, you can one share it.
Yep.
You can recognize it in other people. What
Mm-hmm.
I like to do is if I recognize aspects of it in other people, see if I can't develop that within them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, a lot of times without their knowledge or consent. No, I mean, I think, and I'm almost positive you agree. The whole
Yes.
point of life is what can you do for somebody else,
Yes.
right?
No,
And
exactly.
then, and your deal is your story has something for somebody else. And my experience from the first time doing this with you was I got more out of it because things that I didn't know about myself came out. And um, if those, just like all the other things in my life, if they
Mm,
help somebody else, you
yes.
know, it's like I was joking earlier, if it, on my bird posts, if it helps just one child, it's worth it.
There you go. No, but it's true. Just like you said, I agree. We are all here for each other. We all have a story. And that by sharing your story, you're helping two people, the other person and yourself. Because people forget to look back at all the things that they did or went through.
Yeah, telling your story makes you get out of the box,
Yes,
right?
definitely. And it opens you up again to remind you. And sometimes it even helps you with your forgiveness. Because
you,
you go
you,
back, you look, and you say, you know what? It was, yeah, maybe I did that, but I didn't realize it. Right?
well, the last time we spoke, that's exactly what you made me think, and so I'm the type of person that writes it down.
See?
So I sit there and in the process of writing it down, because my life can be broken up into where I lived. The
Yeah,
events of Seattle, I was young and free to explore. I had enough guts to walk 2 blocks across a
right?
major road, but I was still young and unwatched. And then I
Right.
moved to another place where I'm young and unwatched and become a little criminal.
But eventually, right, you start
Right?
to grow a little bit in between.
And then I go from that. So I've obviously not had good role models.
Right.
Actually, my cousin, I think, has spent more time in prison than out. So
Yeah.
yes, I don't have good good role models. Um, what was I talk about?
Not having good role models.
Yeah, what was before that?
Um, oh my goodness, now I've lost my train of
See?
thought. But we were basically saying how you're once you get out of the box and you start to learn, right?
Well, that's just it. So I'll get when you have to get out of the box,
Yeah.
right? That's the key. Is
Yes.
some people um, never
They try to
realize
hide
that
in
they're in the
it.
box, or they don't care that they're in the box,
True.
right? Other
Yeah.
people are wired to, I'm getting out of this box, I'm
Yeah.
going somewhere else. And
Yep.
then once you're out of the box and you have the ability to go back and look at what you did through your life, you can go,
Hmm.
okay, at this point in time, I could sit here and go, when I moved to Mount Vernon, I got into more trouble,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but that trouble left made me go to the Marine Corps.
Yeah. So, you know what I'm gonna do? Because
What's
I know
that?
this is a whole other conversation for another
Come on,
podcast.
6 or 7 more at least.
Oh, definitely. So let's end this podcast here, right?
Okay.
Right now you've just gotten out of your box. You realize, oh no, you realize you're in the box, right?
Yes.
And you are about to enter the Marine Corps. And the next podcast will discuss what happens after that.
Yeah.
How does that
Um,
sound?
um, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Unless you have a different order you want to go.
No, I was sitting here looking at where we left, and I did the public speaking in
Yep.
college. I did that also in the student government, ran
Mm-hmm.
for president, actually. That was fun. Um,
Nice.
I'm part ant.
You're part ant.
Yeah, that's my,
Like insect
my,
ant.
my, my best friend's brother, who is
Okay.
like straight and narrow as you can get, a outstanding musician. He got recruited as a freshman to play on the Husky band in the Orange Bowl. I mean,
Oh, nice.
really good. And so one night he's out really, really late, and they had a chalkboard in the
Okay.
kitchen, and they wrote on there important. And then this,
Okay.
and when he came home, what he read was "I'm part ant," and it made no sense.
Sometimes those are the best things, right? Reading those things and trying to figure it out.
Well, and that actually became uh, I had a break.
You had a break?
I had a break. Yeah, I was living with my sister in an apartment, and I was going through stuff, thinking I'm
Mm-hmm.
part in, I'm part in, and
Okay.
that's why I
And
wrote it
that
down.
became I'm part
It,
ant.
well, it was significant enough to remember.
Okay. So we'll dive a little deeper in that too, because sometimes that happens, you know? I think everybody can acknowledge they've had some sort of break or something that's pushed them to a certain point, right?
Yes.
And that's another part of whether you can forgive yourself or whether you go hide back in the box or you keep going,
Well,
right?
yes, exactly.
All right. Well, I appreciate you being on this podcast again, and I know we will continue on with your story. And as always, it's been lovely and an adventure.
Yeah. I get more out of this than you know.
Ah, thank you.